Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode, wherever in the world you're listening to us from, whatever platform you're listening to us on. As always, thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for sharing this around. And thank you guys in particular who wanted to hear about this particular topic. So thank you for sending those suggestions my way as well. Today, what we're going to focus on is teaching players specifically about how to be coachable. I think that we all want players that are coachable and ones that are going to learn and they're going to listen and they're going to be willing to take guidance and instruction. But we also know as coaches that it's not always easy, especially when we're working with young men or women to try and get them on board with our coaching and listening to the things that we got to tell them. And so we're going to dedicate this episode kind of specifically to that. So after this episode, hopefully you guys got some ideas or some things to reflect on that can help you as a coach help your players better by teaching them ways to be more coachable and really maximize the time that you got with them. So to help discuss this topic with me, I'm really happy to be joined by a guy. I think he might be coaching year round. He's always in the game. AAU coach, is a JV basketball coach as well out in North Carolina. I'm very happy to be joined by Coach Jameel Parks. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I'm great, man. I'm doing good.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Really looking forward to jumping into this with you. But before we do, Coach, let's go ahead and get started with your basketball journey and your coaching journey. Where has the game taken you? And I know you got your hands in a lot of different pots coaching wise, but what kind of got you into all those different avenues of coaching that you're currently doing as well?
Oh man, I've been coaching for 5 years. So, it was, the game it came to me when I was younger, 13 years old. I've been playing basketball since then. Spalding was my first love. I've had a basketball in my hand ever since then. Got home from school, put the book back down, went outside and played basketball. And, I didn't have the opportunity to have the exposure and what the kids have nowadays today. So, I found myself, I said, look, why don't I take what I love to do and help these kids get to their level of their potential and being where they want to be in life and in their career, in their basketball career as well.
And you're doing, like I said, you're doing AAU and you're also doing JV coach work as well. And so I wanted to talk specifically a little bit and have you address about, your work being a JV coach in particular. And so when you think about putting that, that JV coach hat on, what do you think are the goals of being a successful JV coach? How do you kind of define what it means to be successful in that area?
So what you do is, you kind of see how different players react to different situations. You help develop the players, help develop their talent. You see their talent and you help them see their talent, how their talent can take them to another level by, practicing and, keep doing repetition after repetition and having them believe in you that you'll be able to take them to the next level by helping them, open up that box so they're able to see what you see.
Mm-hmm. And how do you also with that, what's it like for you in that JV coaching role to kind of work together with the head coach? How do you kind of make sure that you and your head coach are kind of on the same page and making sure that your players are moving along the way that you want them to and the way the program wants them to?
Just communicate with each other. I mean, I am the head coach, but, just communicating with each other, talking about, how to use different players, what position to put different players in to make them successful, gameplay strategy. If the person was there a year prior to that, what do we do against this team that we already know already? How to get the guys to work as a team together, camaraderie, build that chemistry with each other.
And I think that's always interesting when you're working with, all these different groups that come in year out, whether you're, like you said, if you're a head coach or a JV coach, you always have a different group of guys. It's always a different mix that you have like coming in like year in and year out. And I feel like sometimes that group that you get coming in is like really ready to roll and they mesh well together and everything like that. But I don't know about you, but sometimes I also find like we got some work to do with these guys, or in my case, girls, because they don't really know each other. They don't know how to play together, and got to do a little bit more to kind of bring them together that way. I don't know if you find yourself in those situations as well.
Oh yeah, that's actually funny that you said that, because my JV team now, um, I have about 9 sophomores that was together with them last year. So they actually have chemistry together, and I also have about 9 or 8 freshmen that's coming in as well. So once trials happen, I already told them during the workouts, I said, look, hey, I know y'all guys have played together last year before, but you're gonna have to learn how to play with the new guys as well. Because once you get into that atmosphere and that role with workouts during the summer, you'll see who migrates to who, and you'll see what kind of chemistry the person has. So I already told them, I said, look, I'm cool with y'all, playing with each other, but y'all also got to learn how to play with these guys too. Because yeah, you're about to leave and go to varsity, but still, these guys have to learn how to play as well. So you can't take up all their time or treat them any less than who you are. You got to treat them as equal.
Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. And hopefully, in a best case scenario, you're hoping that your guys who are on varsity, that they and who are going to be making that transition are going to really be like pushing your JV guys and everything, and really working with them and incorporating them into everything, because hopefully they'd want those JV guys to blossom, and they'd want them to grow and hopefully become their teammates on varsity. So hopefully everyone's kind of working together on the same page with that.
Right, correct.
And then I guess that just kind of leads right into what we'll kind of talk about today, which is the idea of players being coachable. Kind of your answer you gave kind of transitions pretty well right into that. So to set the stage for that, what is your definition of what it means to have a coachable player? Like, if you had to define what a coachable player is, what does that look like to you?
So it's like a player gaining your trust. So if the player trusts you, the player will listen to you, and the player will run through a brick wall for you. So if you know what you're doing and you gain the trust of the players, then they'll do anything for you. So once they'll do anything for you, they'll just listen and they'll become coachable to you. They'll be receptive to everything you say instead of mouthing off and talking back.
And do you think that when you talked about that word trust, and I completely agree with that trust absolutely has to happen. In your experience with coaching, and I know every player is different, but in your experience, is that something that you found has taken a lot of time to work on and build in your players, as you found that it's maybe not been something that's been too much of a challenge? What's kind of that journey been of like even building that trust with your players been like?
Oh, it's been tough. It is a heck of a journey, man.
Ready for some stories of that?
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's like when you coming in, even with a new organization, you coming in with a new set of players. They already have other coaches and other AAU high school coaches in their head, like, okay, this coach told me to do this coach told me to do that. So what make you think I'm gonna listen to what you saying to versus what they're saying? So you have to kind of gain their trust to where it's like, okay, if all these coaches are telling him to go left, then I need to be the reason why he needs to go right. You understand what I'm saying? Like I need him to believe that by him going right, he'll become successful versus these coaches that's telling him to go left so he can get here, and there. But then when I come in the picture, he's expecting me to fall in line with that, which is no. I want you to go right, and because I see what they don't see. And they have to get that trust in you. You have to trust them as well as them trusting you to be like, okay, I'm gonna walk this path with you, coach. I got you.
And so do you think that the things that kind of keep players sometimes from being coachable is, like you said, that they have like so many other coaches and so many other people that have been talking to them and teaching them by the time that they get to you, that you might be that coach that's like trying to tell them to do like something different, and you think that could be one of the bigger barriers that keeps a player from being coachable to begin with?
Yeah, that's one of the barriers to that plays a part in that, because some coaches allow players to do it what they want to do. Some coaches don't say anything to players at all. Some coaches are more harder on players. So it's like typically the coaches that actually coach the players, those are coachable kind of kids versus the coaches that allow the player just to do as they please, say what they want. that plays a part in it as well. And it's also, from your background, how you were raised and how you grew up and all that stuff, how you, were raised to talk to adults and stuff like that.
And I think something that's kind of an interesting point that you brought up is you kind of talked about, players who might come into a program, might come into your program with the idea that they can kind of, do what they want, say what they want, kind of go about things the way that they please. And so when you find players that are in that particular situation, what do you find that they're lacking in terms of basketball skills? Do you find that they're kind of all over the place because they haven't been coached at all? What are some things that you're like, uh-oh, nobody's ever taught this or told you this before, and we really got to work on it? Are there any like trends you kind of see with players who are kind of in that description?
Discipline. Discipline. That is the bigger barrier with the players nowadays is discipline. You can be a great player, you can be a great athlete, you could drop 20, 30, 40 points, but if you're not disciplined in your coaching, then none of that means anything. You know what I'm saying? So being disciplined helps everything and helps everybody, because once you're disciplined, you're coachable. You'll listen. You'll listen to what's going on. You'll listen to how to handle certain situations. But if you're not disciplined, you're just going to be an outlaw and you're going to try to do what you want, and that's not going to work. For some coaches, that's not going to work.
And is that seems, and it's really vital and it's really important, but it also seems kind of tiring or exhausting at times. Do you kind of feel that way if you have to try to like instill that discipline in players? Because at that point, when you're trying to teach that to players, I found that I'm doing like so much more than just coaching basketball. I'm almost feel like I'm like a life coach or somebody who's almost in a sense, almost like raising this kid or trying to bring him up in the world. And I feel like that takes so much out of me to try and do that sometimes. I don't know. Do you feel the same way at all?
Yeah, it does, but that's your job. That's your calling. That's
Sure.
part of the calling that you're supposed to be doing. Is you're supposed to build them up. You're supposed to help them with confidence, because some players, what they're lacking at home, they bring to the basketball court. They help, that helps them. Basketball helps with anger, helps with, if this person's not getting this at home, but when I come to play basketball, I want to learn this, so I got to listen to this person. I know this person is going to get me here. So yeah, pounding and teaching and learning, that it is tiring, but that's what you're supposed to do. That's what your calling is to do, is develop, is to learn, is to teach. You'll learn from them just as much, and believe it or not, you'll learn just as much from them as they'll learn from you, believe it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you find it's the same? Are there similar situations that you have when you're working with AAU as you're working with the high school players? Are any situations at all different between the two when it comes to having players that are coachable at all?
No, they're the same. Some are more of, they'll say some stuff and then walk away, or some will be like, they won't say anything, but then they'll go back in the game and do the same thing all over again. So it's different ways, but the same. AAU, it's the same. It's all the same. It's just how different players react to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And so as you're starting to work with players that, and you're trying to do that work to kind of make them into more coachable players. And again, I'm saying this as I did before, with the understanding that every player is different, every situation is kind of different. So we're kind of talking about this in more of a general sense. But in terms of the words that you use, in terms of the language choice that you need to use in order to help players and kind of make them more receptive to your coaching and make them more coachable, and in your experience, what sort of language or choice of words have you found to be like the most effective to kind of break through and make those I guess breakthroughs with players?
Just pull them to the side during, after, or before the game. Explain to them, hey, this is what this is. This is how this goes. If you make this mistake, you'll see. So it's kind of like you're showing them examples of what they've done, and then you're showing them how they can correct it. So, you don't do really much yelling and screaming in a bad type of sense. It's more of, okay, come up out the game. Let me show you what you're doing wrong, and then I'm going to show you what you can do right to fix what you're doing wrong.
I think that has been something that I've had to learn a lot in my coaching experience and in all the years that I've been fortunate enough to do this is I've seen situations where I see something in practice or I see something go on and I just want to immediately stop. And I remember I did this when I first started coaching. I would just rip into a player, just put him on the spot, or just, I didn't pull him off to the side. I just said whatever I had to right then. And then, just let things happen the way that they were. And I think I may have missed some connections that I could have made with players, or made some breakthroughs of players a lot better if I did what you kind of suggested and kind of pulled them off to the side, which I think I'm a lot better at doing it now. But I think that players, and I'll let you speak to this too, it's more difficult for them to be receptive when they're getting called out in front of a bunch of people. I know some players can handle it just well, but I found most of them really don't do too well when they get called out like that in front of everyone.
Yeah, you can see you can do it in practice. I do it in practice, because sometimes it takes that to say, look, this is what I'm showing you. So why are you doing what you want to do? I usually just do it in practice, but I don't really do it too much in the game. When I'll pull them out of the game and I'll pull them while we're standing face to face, and then I'll talk to them like that. I'm not, the only time I kind of rip into a player during the game is if they get to talking back, and then I'll just sit them down. And I'm really not going to say too much in the game either. I'm not going to really yell and scream in the game because I'm not going to handle the talking back to me in the game. So you're really going to sit on the bench. But in practice, it's the same thing. If you're gonna talk back in practice, then it's going to suffer for the whole team. The whole team is going to suffer, not just you. So it's kind of whatever they choose to do. If they choose to do that in practice, the whole team's going to suffer, and then the whole team is mad at them. They ain't going to be mad at me because I'm trying to show you what you're doing wrong, and you want to talk back to me. I can see everything from afar while you're in the game and while you're in practice. I can see what you don't see.
And just going on with that, like I've just been of the mindset too, like, right, when you start talking back, you're not listening to me anymore. Like you're just
Right.
you're just talking. You heard words, but you're just waiting to respond and waiting to fire something back at me. And we're not even like able to have that conversation at that point. I get it too, right? Players, they can get defensive, or they can get, they're upset or emotional, maybe even mad at themselves because of mistakes that they made. But like you said, when they talk back, and then in like all my experiences, and I kind of feel like you're in the same way, like when somebody talks back, like I know you're ready to, like, you're ready to fight back against me. Like it's me against you. We're no longer working together. You're no longer listening to me. And like you said, right, you just gotta have to sit aside here because we're not going to have a conversation that's going to be helpful for you. And like when you're ready to have that conversation, we can come back together and have it. But I think we're kind of similar in that respect.
Yep.
Are there things that I guess here, I'll kind of word it this way. When you talked about things like, stopping things in practice, especially, if there's mistakes being made, are there certain mistakes that you really attribute because players just like aren't listening versus like just not knowing how to do it? Like are there things that you see and you're like, all right, this is happening because you just like didn't listen to me, versus like you didn't do this because you're not like sure what to do? Is there a way that you can kind of tell the difference between like somebody kind of choosing to do their own thing versus just maybe not being quite sure of like what they're supposed to be doing?
Oh yeah. That definitely happens a lot. If you want to, they'll do the same thing over again, not something different. So like, I usually work on my press, and I do a simple press break, just skipping the ball. And some kids, they'll see a hole and just run through the hole real quick. And I'm like, no, I didn't tell you that. You'll get your opportunity to do that in the game, but I want you to learn how to skip the ball and get the ball past half court and practice. So when you do get in the game, you'll have that fundamental basics of getting the ball cross half court easily instead of trying to do it your way. So yeah, it happens, and they'll do the same thing. They'll try to dribble through two people. They'll try to take off as soon as they see the first hole they see. And no, when that happens, I stop them and I say, look, you'll get your opportunity to do that, but right now you need to stay disciplined and stay fundamental. Fundamentals is not used in basketball nowadays. A lot of kids are not fundamentally sound at all, none of them. And most coaches that come around that are fundamentally sound are very rare. And some players get along with those coaches, and some players are like, nah, I want to go play with my homie. So, you'll see it. You'll see the difference in it, just depending on how, like you said, how the kid receives the information that you're given.
So then I gotta ask, and I'm sure there's a whole list that you could probably use for this answer, but what fundamentals do you find are lacking that you really gotta hone in on and work with your players on because they're lacking by the time they get to you?
Oh man,
I don't know how long the list you got.
dribbling too much, trying to create a highlight reel, showboating, playing with the basic skills. One dribble, go by them, pull up, jump shot. It's a lot of things. That these kids are lacking as far as fundamentals because. And one, oh man, and then one is, and I've seen it this weekend, and this one bothers me so much. We was playing a guy, and he was a bigger guy than my guy, and he went up straight through his shoulder in the air into my guy's chest while they both was in the air. The ref called the charge, right? I told the kid, I said, look, all you got to do is go up for a layup. You'll get the contact. Why are you trying to they're trying to anticipate the contact versus just going straight up for a layup,
Oh yeah,
not knowing that they're going to get the contact. So the first thing they do, they anticipate the contact and try to do too much and then try to be all it's just that made me mad. That's the biggest one. That's the biggest one to me. That is just anticipating contact instead of just going straight up for a layup. That's the biggest one.
I can't count how many times I've seen players try to anticipate contact and try and do something, and then the defender just barely moves or doesn't really do anything, and they end up missing a layup because there was no contact made at all.
Right. Oh, and then they want to complain and cry about it. I'm like, dude, you just go up for the layup and you will get the contact. This day and age, you trying to go into the person. This is high school AAU basketball. This ain't the NBA.
Oh man, no, I know that all too well. And that doesn't that kind of tie back to kind of like your earlier point, right? Where some players don't get fundamentally taught, they're kind of left to be on their own and kind of left to do their own thing. That by the time some of them probably get to you, nobody's ever really corrected them, even on correct form of going into contact or even basic ball handling or. I don't know about you, but one that I see a lot is just over dribbling. And I think you mentioned it as well, just way too much dribbling happening. So I feel like it kind of goes back to that where, the coach didn't stop that player somewhere along the journey. So by the time they get to you, it's okay, nobody really taught you this, but now it's I have to actually really teach you some of these basic things that you've been lacking. And, that's like you said, right? That's just kind of your job. And that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah, that's true.
And the trust part, right? And just kind of adding on to this as I start to think of more layers to this, I could imagine that maybe sometimes, and I'll let you speak if you have situations about this in particular, where that trust is really important because you might be teaching players things that are a lot more at a basic level that the players may sometimes think are beneath them or that they don't need to know how to do, or well, why am I spending time on this? But you're yeah, because you never had that skill set taught to you in the begin with. I don't know if you ever faced that situation before where you have to almost take players way back in some cases to the very beginning to kind of try and rebuild some of their fundamentals up.
Oh yeah. Yes, definitely. In a situation now. In that situation now. And it's all, and it's cool. And it's all good because when you correct that situation and then they'll see exactly what you're talking about on the next play and then do something good. Then you look at him oh, all right. Remember I said that? He's like, all right, coach, I got you. Made that layup. Went by the guy. Instead of you just playing around with him, trying to do the shake and bait. Come on, man. Most of y'all wasn't even born when Allen Iverson was playing. You know what I'm saying? So it's y'all trying to be somebody y'all didn't even watch play basketball. So, you know what I'm saying? And one in hot sauce, y'all didn't even watch them play basketball. So why you trying to do what they do? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They were good at what they did. Y'all are not superstars. If you the basic fundamentals is 1 or 2 dribbles, go by the guy. Don't play with it. Don't play with him at all. Don't try to do the crisscross, applesauce between the legs, spinning, crossover, come back, Has he come? No, I don't do all what you doing all that for. For what? And then when you miss the shot or turn the ball over, and then I'm yelling at you, you looking at me like, dang. Like, come on, man. Like, nah.
And but as you mentioned, one of the really good things though is when a player does do it the way that you know instructed them to do it, or they see what it is that you were talking about. I feel like that's where the coachability aspect is like, okay, now it's like I got that player because now that like they saw success with something I did, and it's like there's this connection here where like, oh, okay, now I see like what coach has been saying, and okay, now I sort of get it. And so that trust part I feel like is really really key. And then when a player does do something that you know taught them how to do or coach them how to do, um do you like have a conversation with the player about that, or is it just kind of like a mutual understanding, like, oh yeah, you understand where I'm getting at now? Like what's that kind of like once the player follows through on those things that you've been telling them to do? How do you kind of keep the positivity and keep that good momentum going?
It's both. You know, you pull them to the side and say, look, I like what you did. You see what I was talking about. Then the other player, like you said, receptive. They'll be receptive to it as soon as they do it, and we'll make eye contact, and then they'll know, okay, cool, coach, I got you. I make sure I do that the right way next time because it put me in a better situation versus me trying to do all of this what I want to do, and it didn't put me in a good situation. So yeah, you can talk to them, and then y'all will both have that understanding, like, okay, coach, you got me, I got you, we good.
How do you work with, I guess before I even ask this question, let me just kind of bring it back to kind of general team chemistry stuff. In your experience, how much work do you need to do or have you done getting your players, coaching your players to be able to kind of work together as a team, and not just be individual players that are out there? Do you have to do a lot of work with that? Do you find that your players are good and have good chemistry by the time that they get to you? Because I think a big part about having coachable players is having players that can also work together as a team. So what's kind of been your experience with players as they start coming into your programs?
Practice. You know, players see what other players can do in practice. On top of coaching them and having them do the basic fundamental stuff together to also see that. But then towards the end of practice, they run 5-on-5. Then you'll see, okay, Michael here can shoot a three. So let me come down, collapse the defense, and trust that he can shoot that three. And let me get him the ball. Because I know when we was running the plays, he was knocking down threes. So, okay, I'm the point guard. I see that he knocked down threes. All right, so when we run our 5-on-5, I'm going to collapse the D and I'm going to hit him. I'm going to see if he can knock down that three. Or, you got Billy. Billy's a big. If Billy's footwork in the post is good, all right, I'm the point guard. So let me come down. Let me spread everybody out. Let me try to get Billy the ball. Let's see if Billy can work. That plays a part in a player too as well. Just, seeing what they can do in a 5-on-5, hard, tough situation in practice, and also seeing what they can do once plays are being taught. So if a player can remember a play, then that makes all of the difference as well, because now the point guard knows the plays, his shooting guard knows the plays. So now they can collaborate, and now they can be the floor generals for me. I'm just on the sideline, they're on the floor. So it's like, all right, Eddie and Steve knows the plays. Let me see if Billy and Michael can get with the program and know the plays too. Then once they can do that, then they'll build that chemistry with each other as well, on top of what I'm already doing. So then once that happens, then the chemistry will come the more and more as you would transition that into an actual game. So it's like, all right, so now I'm the point guard. So now let me trust that Eddie's going to shoot this three. If he's going to hesitate to shoot. And if I know that Eddie can shoot that three and he hesitates to shoot, I'm going to go over there and be like, bro, don't hesitate to shoot that ball, because I know you can shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
So the chemistry will come as they develop more and more trust in each other. And once they trust each other more and more, the chemistry will be out of this world, to where it's going to be like, the ball going to move around so much. It's going to be like, yo, when they going to shoot the ball?
Yeah. But as you mentioned about, you got to kind of like in a practice situation, right? You kind of got to let them play, and you kind of let them like see what what they can do and how they work within the flow of what you're trying to do. And I think that sometimes, I know that's been something that's been in the past, especially a bit of a challenge for me, is wanting to almost direct what every player is supposed to be doing, and things get sometimes really mechanical, and instead of players in some cases kind of feeling it out for themselves and working with each other and seeing like who can do what and seeing how they work with each other. I think that there's something to be said with what you're saying about, in some cases, you kind of let your players kind of get a feel for each other, because that's a lot more trust building than necessarily everything having to come from like a coach kind of directing all the action of like, this has to happen, then this has to happen. And maybe it probably means a lot more sometimes for the players to be able to kind of work together and figure it out and kind of build that trust within themselves as teammates.
Yeah, typically, that's true. Like typically when I try to direct traffic on offense, it's typically if I make pretty good adjustments throughout the game. So I'll see if some of our plays aren't working. I'll usually just try to break down the defense myself and, try to run a 2-man game on one side, a 3-man game in the middle, or like a triangle kind of game. But if the offense is flowing, then I'll let them flow. But if they're having trouble, I'll usually break down the defense myself and make that adjustment, and then direct the traffic if need be. But if everything is flowing, if the defense isn't playing any transition defense, I'll make that adjustment to where I'll put my 2 fast speed guys in there, and we just gonna beat you on transition until you make a decision. I'm not gonna. I teach my guys, if the guys aren't playing no defense in transition, then we gone. We out of here. We're not gonna let them. We're not gonna give them no opportunity to play defense on transition if they're not playing D. So once I see that, that's an adjustment I make. All right, let me get another fast guy in the game. Then I probably got about 3 or 4 fast guys in the game with a big. We take it off. Then 9 times out of 10, when that happens, the other coach will call timeout, make his adjustment, and I'll make my adjustment based off of his, and we'll go back to playing ball.
And when you make those adjustments, you're putting players in or counting on different situations, right? That kind of goes right back into the idea of players being coachable and players trusting you, because then in a positive way, right? When you're putting different players in different situations, those players know, okay, this group's in right now, or coach needs this from me because I'm getting in the game, and I know exactly like why he's putting me in the game and putting me in this situation, because he's trusting me to be able to, whether it's run this break or run, a particular motion or a particular set a certain way. And I feel like that's a really good positive outcome when you can just kind of put players in or sub players out or change things up, and the players kind of know right away, oh, we're doing this because coach wants me to do this on the court. So I'm going to make sure I make that happen, because he's doing what he can to put me in the best position to be successful.
That is correct. That's correct.
Yeah. When players get frustrated, bad shooting night, making some mistakes, getting cooked on defense, whatever the case may be, what is your communication style with making sure that you're working with players as they're, getting frustrated? Because sometimes players are really coachable and they're really receptive when things are going well and, everything's, cooking the right way. But man, when the adversity hits, sometimes that coachability goes down a little bit. So what is your kind of style with players when they're, making mistakes or just not doing that well or being successful?
You just kind of pull them out, talk to them for a minute, calm them down, because you don't want the game to snowball. If they're not shooting well, if they're not making shots or making layups, or if they're pulling, bad passes, just pull them out for a second, talk to them, see what's going on with them, let them gather their thoughts, let the team, help them, get their momentum back and get their confidence back. And, once that happens, put them back in the game and, just let him know, like, hey, this is what you need to do. Don't hesitate shooting. Go up strong. Go through it. Don't hesitate, because hesitating ain't gonna work for you. You're missing shots. You know what I'm saying? Once you keep missing those shots, then the game is gonna snowball. So you pull them out, talk to them. My varsity coach gave me a good thing to do. He gave me this thing. He said it's 2 positives and a negative. You give them 2 positive comments while they're playing, and then also you give them that negative comment to where it's like, you need to stop turning the ball over. You're doing pretty good, but you need to stop turning the ball over. You know what I'm saying? So once you do that, and then that gets instilled in them, then they go back in the game and like, all right, coach, I got it. My mind in the game, my head back is right. So, put me in the game. I got you. And that's how it works.
And that could take time, I think, to really build that on players, because some players, like, when they get pulled out, even, like, they can get really frustrated, because I don't know if you've been in that experience too. I'm sure you have players who just want to stay in there, and they want to like shoot themselves out of it, or they want to really try to overcome it, and the last thing they want to do is come out, because then, like, they don't get a chance in that moment to try and make up for it. And you really have to, like you said, right, like, settle them down a little bit and kind of refocus them. And again, it's that trust factor that you mentioned of, like, hey, like, I'm taking you out because I need you to be better, but, like, I need you to also, like, reset and refocus a little bit, because right now, like, mentally, like, you're not where I need you to be. And so, some players, I'm sure, again, you can speak to this, they want to be out there every single second of the game, and so taking them out, like, can really frustrate them, unless you got that trust, like, built up with them, and they know why you're taking them out.
Right, right. And, and then helping them understand that, y'all will feed off of each other in different type of manners.
Yeah.
So if you're not shooting good, but you're playing good on defense, I guarantee you, once you play good on defense and get stops, everything else is going to fall into place. Your momentum is going to come back, because now you feel like you're doing something positive and not doing something negative. You're like, take that out of your mind. It's like, dang, I ain't shooting good, man. I don't know what to do. But then you come down, you get 2 stops on defense, fast break layups. All right, now your mind back in the game now. So then come down on offense and you get the ball, knock down your 3, the place on fire, and now you back up.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And do you find that those situations work with the high school players that you work with, and AAU as well? Is it all just kind of the same thing? I know some AAU players, they get really anxious because if they're at like a showcase event, or they're trying to really impress a certain people, they might feel a certain way. But is it all the kind of the same situation, whether it's AAU or high school ball?
Yeah, it's the same. Luckily, my groups are the same. I do 15U and AAU and JV in high school. So yeah, it's all the same.
Hmm. And that's good, because I know sometimes, and you could, I'm sure some of these AAU events, they get to a whole nother level of things that are happening in those things, and sometimes parents can get a certain way, other coaches can get a certain way. I've seen some of those kind of go out of hand, and I think that having, like, some good disciplined, coachable players, especially when things are, however they are. I don't know what the state of AAU like is, what your plan, but I've been to some events, and I'm like, man, I'm glad that I have players that are pretty disciplined and well controlled, because there's some crazy things going on out there.
Yeah, that's true. And ultimately, you control that environment. You control your guys.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really control the parents too much, but you typically control that environment, control that situation, to where it's like, you need to be responsible for that. If that player is doing this, you can't control their parent. Their parent is
Sure.
who they are. Right now you have to control the player and make sure the player is doing what the player is supposed to be doing. We're not really worried about what the parent. The parent paid their money. The parent is just a parent, not a coach.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
So you kind of ignore the parent and worry about the player and his well-being and what he has going on.
Yeah, 100% agree. Do you do a lot of work with film work or things like that with your players after a game? I know that kind of goes into that topic of coachability, looking at film and breaking things down with players and kind of teaching them and explaining them what's going on. Is that something you do heavily, or what does that look like for you in the program in general?
Oh no, we don't. We can do film. Like, we'll pay. We can pay people to film our games and stuff like that. But that's they charge like for every game. So we typically don't do that.
And so do you is that even something, though, like, if it was an option, do you think that would be something that would be, like, really helpful for your players to be able to, like, look at film and look at the things that they're doing? Is that something that you think personally that there's, like, a lot of value in? I know that there's kind of sometimes a debate about, like, looking at film too much and, like, over analyzing things. So what's just kind of your position on that in general? Let's just say if it was, like, easily accessible.
Oh yeah. That I agree 100%. You know, because you can see a player's weaknesses, you can see a player's strength,
Hmm.
you can see the strategy of the coach, you can see the strategy and the chemistry, how the team plays, how they move on defense, how they move on offense, and you can see what this player is doing, what that player is doing. They can see how they can fix it before the next game or anything of that nature.
Yeah, I think when players like almost like know how to watch film, I think that that's something that needs to almost be taught, because you can have players who can just look at film but maybe not know what
How to
they're
break
looking
it
for.
down.
But if players are kind of taught what to look for, even like how to break down and watch film, like it just helps their understanding of the game so much more. And it's like, oh, I can like talk to my player this way and they know what I'm talking about because they've seen it on film, or they know, some of the things that I'm mentioning at. And I think that that could just save you a lot of time. But like I said, I think it's something that like players have to be like taught in a way, like almost like taught how to watch something. It kind of sounds kind of silly, but I think there is like an art to it.
Yeah. It is an art to it, believe it or not. Showing a player how to break down another player. For example, if you're a big guy and
Hmm.
we play on another team and we can watch his film. Okay, so you want to watch how he plays. You want to watch how he sets his feet. You want to watch what's his favorite side of the court. You want to watch what's his favorite hand. Is he right-handed? Is he left-handed? Is he predominantly right-handed? Predominantly left-handed? Is he a shooter? Can he shoot? Is he soft? Is he a crybaby? Does he run? Is he aggressive? Is he finesse, like smooth? It's just a film can really break down a player to where it's like you can win games. And I kind of do it in AAU, just seeing it myself because I'm a big. I've been a big all my life. And
Hmm.
so any kind of big that we play against, I take them out the game. I take them out because I know how to take them out the game because all they do is come down the court and sit in one spot. Or if they're on a fast team, they'll cherry pick and stay at the top of the key because they know that their guards are probably going to score one or two passes or whatever the case may be. So they'll cherry pick at the top of the key, and all they do is just backpedal back. So what I do is I make them play a half court game. So if you want to play that way, then I'm gonna take your big out of the game, and I'm gonna make you make a decision. So that's where I'm gonna find out if you're an aggressive player or not. That's where I'm gonna find out if you're a ball handler or a ball manager. That's where I'm gonna find out if you can shoot at the top of the key, or are you a crybaby, or are you a dirty player? Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna find out all of that stuff just by once I step on the court. Once you step on the court, I'm gonna see what you're capable of automatically. Because what I've seen with AAU is that they use their bigs. They use their bigs, and their bigs just sit in the middle, grab rebounds, and go back up. But me, when I play against a big, that if my guy that I have him on, they are playing together, I tell my guy, push him out of the paint, push
Hmm.
him to the top of the key. Because then when you get to being physical with a big, then he's gonna get physical right back. So then that's when you're gonna know if he has an attitude problem or not. So then when he has an attitude problem, you already know after that first foul, his coach pulling him out of the game. Because
Hmm.
now he has to cool him down. Because now he has an attitude. Because my guys are playing physical and aggressive with him. Then you put him back in the game. Same thing happens again. Then he gets into foul trouble. So now your big is out of the picture. You have nobody else to rebound. So now I'm going to make somebody else work. Now I'm going to make your guards work now and see what your guards can do. I'm going to keep your guards at the 3-point line with help defense. If your guards are just penetrating guards, okay, all right, I got something for that too. And all I'm gonna do is shut the door, and I'm gonna make you play at the top of the key, and I'm gonna make you shoot 3-pointers. Then by you shoot 3-pointers, y'all better make every one of them you shoot. Because if you don't, you're in trouble on the boards.
It
And that's
is.
just, that's just how it is.
It's so funny that you kind of brought up that particular situation, because we had a game that we played in early February against we were up against this girl, and she was one of those girls who a little taller, a little bit bigger, and you can just tell that she was probably one of those girls who had been successful in some cases just because of her size and just because of the intimidation thing. And I remember telling my girls, I said, whatever it is that you do, you just got it, you just hit her. Every single time you hit her, you get physical, you box her out, like make her feel you every single time. And sure enough, just got really frustrated because wasn't used to being hit, didn't like being hit, didn't like, being handled that way, got into some foul trouble. And I'm like, oh, well, that wasn't too bad. Like that isn't too bad because some players like they don't respond too well with that, especially when it's down big. And I always love when I can get players who like they don't mind, dealing contact. They understand they're going to get contact in return. And they can just kind of frustrate some players that way just by being physical, nothing dirty, just by being physical and just by being aggressive against them. And it's always fascinating to just to try and like almost like you said, right? Like just kind of testing them a little bit, like how are you going to respond to this? And it's really interesting the way some players respond versus others.
Yep. I do that with all the players in the court. As soon as I see, even with a guard, I do the same thing with a guard. You put your hands on the guard a little bit, you can tell he'll start getting aggravated and whining, looking at the ref and looking at his coach and talking back to his coach. Oh yeah, I got that player. I know what to do with him now. Yep, I got him.
Kind of circling back about working with bigs in general and the idea of like being coachable with the game being as stretched out as it is, more so than ever, with players shooting from the perimeter, big guys shooting threes, spacing the floor and things of that nature. Do you work with a lot of big guys in terms of like the more traditional post big offense? Do you work with them on being more of a stretch player? I think that's a really interesting question to ask, just because I know the nature of what does the biggest player on the court need to do for me in our offense. So what is that kind of like, or what's that been in your experience of working with big guys?
Just fundamentals, going all the way back to playground basketball. Drop step, power dribble, drop step, power dribble, drop step, power dribble. All the other stuff will come. If you can't post up and drop step, I don't care if you can shoot. I need to know if you can get big and get boards and score. That's what I need to know. Like, yeah, you can stretch the floor, but nah, you gonna know how to post first. If you don't know how to post, I mean, we don't need you at the top of the key if I got 4 guards that can do what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know if you can clean up the mess down there. If you can get posts and I can spread everybody out, and your footwork and your moves are good in the post, yeah, I got you. So that's usually what I work on first is posting, because everything else will come later. You can shoot if you receive what I'm telling you and you learn as the season go and your post moves are getting better, then I don't care if you shoot a 3. You make the 3, you miss the 3, you're 1 or 2 shots, but you're not gonna try to shoot 18 threes or 15 shots. Nah, you get down there in that box and you bang down there. And then if you feel confident to where you can come to the top of the key or come to the elbow and pull your little jump shot and make it, then now you got something else to add to your arsenal. It's shooting a jump shot.
What's been the state of big men, or the condition that those bigger guys in by the time that they come to you? How much breaking down at a fundamental level do you feel like you got to work with? Is it different than it is with guards?
Yeah, because they want to come down and think they can shoot, and they don't want to get dirty. They don't want to get their hands wet. So you can tell their coaches have let them just shoot the ball, and that's what they'll come down and do. They'll try to fit in with the guards and say, "Look, I can shoot from the perimeter and blah blah blah," but you can't. You can't shoot from the perimeter. You're not making them. So why should I continue to let you shoot from the perimeter and you're not making nothing, versus I can trust you more to make a layup? So yeah, it's tough, but not as tough, but it's tough though. Because when they see that their guards are getting frustrated, and it's funny because it'll change quick when they see that the guards are getting frustrated. And it's like, okay, bro, you're not making your shots and we're not making all our shots. We need you to get down there and get rebounds. So when they get down there and get rebounds, then okay, now we make the adjustment. All right, bro, you get in the post. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now you're not shooting, bro. Get in the post. And then they'll switch that because now they're not getting the ball. So okay, guards ain't giving me the ball. All right, what I'm gonna do? All right, let me try to get in the post. Maybe I get the ball. You get in the post, guard give you the ball. You make a good play. You get in the post again, guard give you the ball right back. You're gonna eat.
I mean, that's one of the best things I think about if you get the players with that like skill set and working with players in the post. And I've had those situations where you try to get some of my girls down there in the posts and gets it's a little tough for them too. But then, like you said, you feed them a couple times and then they do well, or then they get that double team and you just kick out and then and now just open it up for everybody else. And it's just patience, right? Just patience. Like, hey, you need to do this because nobody else can do on the court what you can do here, and your time will come. And right, like you said, like once they can establish that they can, have certain post moves or certain things they can do down low, like you're going to give them that opportunity if it arises for them to kind of stretch a little bit. But there's kind of like that mandatory, like you need to be doing this before anything else sort of thing.
Yep, that's true. That is true, because once you get down there and you catch the ball, make your moves and score, that's when you gain your trust that from your teammates. Your teammates not gonna trust you if you shooting from the perimeter and you 2 for 8. Like they not gonna trust you for that. But if you get down in the post and you make your shots and go 7 for 8, then okay, we good. We're gonna keep feeding you because we trust you. But we don't trust you shooting from the perimeter. We trust you down there. And that's how that affects players, because they'll have more fun in the game with the other guys.
And I've even said, and this was something that worked for one of my girls, who I worked with a lot, who was a pretty decent post player. This was years ago, and I explained to her, and I think this was something that really helped her, was like, when you get the ball, I was talking to this particular girl, I was like, when you get the ball down in the post, everybody in the gym is thinking or expecting that you have the potential to score, and everybody has to immediately react to that threat of you having the ball. And I'm like, nobody else on the court, when they get the ball, are immediately thinking that. But it's like, when you get the ball in the post, everybody in that gym is thinking that you have the ability to score and you could score right there. And that's like a completely different mentality that everyone in that gym is going to have when you touch the ball versus when anybody else does. And that was like a big light bulb thing for her. And so I don't know. I think that bigs kind of like that, when like they get fed a little bit and then they know, like, oh man, once I touch the ball, everybody's gonna be worried about me and what I'm gonna do. And they kind of like that.
Yeah, that's true. And it gives them more prone to try to score.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and they try not to make as much mistakes, but once you get that out of them, then it'll all get better. Because like, oh man, the pressure's on. I got to try to do too much. And yeah, they'll do too much
Yeah,
maybe once or twice. But then when you settle them down, like, look, take it easy, take your time. They feed me the ball again. I make a smart move, layup. Oh, all right, we good now. All right,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna give me the ball. Hopefully, are they gonna give me the ball back? Let me try to get back down there again and do it again. Let me call for the ball. Hey, layup. I bet. So I think I'm gonna get the ball back now. So that's just how that is.
Say, all right, the offense is pretty good now at this point. Things look pretty nice too when the ball can just get fed down low and get layups. Like, oh,
Yes,
this is a
sir.
pretty
Yes,
simple
sir.
offense here. We don't have to work about all these other secondary or tertiary actions. We can just do this until something else happens. That's a nice
Right.
feeling. Before we hit the last couple questions, what do you like to run on offense and defense that you could only like do it because you have like coachable players? So what are some things, like in terms of sets or things that you like to be running on the offensive or defensive side on the ball, that like you're just able to do them because your players are coachable, receptive, and that they're listening to what's going on?
Pick and roll on offense. Most simple play. Pick and roll, 2-man game on offense. Whether it's a pick and roll, whether it's a post and a high, it's 2-man game, simple on offense. Defense is typically 2-1-2, but I just recently tried to incorporate 1-2-2 in a diamond. But the main offense is a 2-man game, and the main full court defense is a 2-1-2 press. I also run a 32 press on half court as well.
What was the last part that you said? What press?
32
Oh, okay.
half court press, which is a 3-2.
And so, I mean, of any sort of press, right? The big thing with that is, communication and everybody kind of working together. And I think you absolutely got to have players that trust each other and trust in you in order to be able to work together on a press. You can't have anybody kind of going on their own, doing their own thing, or else there ain't going to be no press to speak of, right?
Right.
So to wrap up, Coach, there's a couple questions that I ask every guest. So I'll go ahead and get started here with this first one. So thinking back on your coaching career, what is a coaching moment of yours that you think others listening would be able to learn from?
Oh man, a good coaching moment. Just knowing how to draw up a play when you're needed. So you know how when you call a player to do something, when the time has come, you're being called as well. So it was like a maybe an overtime play or last second play or something like that. A good coaching moment is to be able to draw up a play, gather your guys, calm them down, and get them to understand what's going on, and get them to actually watch you draw that play up so they can execute. That coaching moment is when they execute that play that you drew up at the last second. That's the best coaching moment I can give you.
What
Just
is
having your teammates trust you.
Oh yeah, no, I just have that trust that you can, draw something up or give some directions and it can just happen. What are kind of, to follow up on that, what are kind of some of your like favorite actions that you like to get out of like a quick hitter or something that you design out of a timeout?
Typically, typically if the game is pretty much close, I'll just explain how their defense is and what's lacking on the defense. And my guys, they pretty much know how to run the offense. But I typically draw up a play when the game is on the line.
Mm-hmm.
When the game is on the line, I draw up a play, and they trust me to execute that play, and it'll work.
I think that is kind of like the ultimate like sign of like trust and coachability, to be able to have players in like a real stressful moment or real tense moment, especially like you mentioned, like in a close game, but then to have them come together and be able to just give their undivided attention and focus on something you're giving directions on, or something you're like whipping up on a whiteboard. To me as a coach, I would be like, all right, like I've done something good. I got these players, they're completely bought in because they're able to tune out everything else and be able to just kind of dial right into what we're doing. To me, that would be like the ultimate sign that like my guys or girls in my case are on board.
Yes, sir.
So I wrap up by giving every guest kind of what I call like a 60-second soapbox. I don't time you though, so you can go as long as you want. It's kind of your platform to get out kind of a final idea, a final thought, just kind of a closing message, something that you just kind of want to leave the listeners with. I'll kind of let you take it in any sort of direction that you want. So I'm just going to kind of give you the floor to kind of speak on what you wish, and I'm going to kind of let you take it from here, Coach. So go ahead.
As a coach, fellas, ladies, learn from your players. Learn their personality, learn their energy, learn what's going on in their life outside of the court, in the classroom, at home. Try to be personal with them, but not too personal to where, they'll do anything for you. They have to trust you. No one wants to trust a stranger. So they have to trust the fact that you're going to put them in a good situation no matter what. So by you being able to put them in a good situation, you have to get to know your player and get to know how they react to certain situations and where to put them in. So just gain your trust from your players, and they'll trust you. Get to know your players and they'll know you, and everything will be fine. Learn from them. Learn from each other. Learn.
At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, right? The players that we're working with and the people that we're working with. So we might as well learn from them, because that's what we're dedicated this job to do.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Coach, I want to thank you so much for spending some time talking about your program, talking about your team, talking about coachable players and the way that you work with players individually and on a team basis. I mean, it's always an important subject, and one that we kind of got to do every single day and every single year as we get new players coming in, making sure they're on board and they're trusting and the discipline's there and the coachability is there. So I know you're a busy guy and you're coaching a lot of different aspects. So I just want to say thank you again for being able to take some time to talk to us. Best of luck going forward this upcoming year, and keep doing what you're doing. It sounds like things are going great over there. Thanks, Coach Parks. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you too, man. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. We will see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.